The space station called Horizon's Edge floated near a dying star. The star was old and red, and it gave off a weak light that made everything look tired. But the station was busy. Ships came and went every hour. Merchants sold their goods. Smugglers hid their secrets. And scavengers looked for anything they could find. Do-hwan walked through the crowded halls of the station. He was 32 years old, with rough hands and a face that showed years of hard work. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy. People who knew him said he had a strange habit. He liked to buy things that others thought were useless. Behind him walked his crew. There were 3 of them, and they had been together for 5 years. Yuna was his engineer. She was the same age as Do-hwan, and they had grown up together on the same colony world. She was smart and quick with her hands. She could fix almost anything, and she never complained about difficult work. Taiwan was their pilot. He was older, maybe 40, with gray hair at his temples. He used to fly military ships in a war that nobody talked about anymore. Now he flew cargo ships and tried to forget the things he had seen. Ji-woo was the youngest. She was 24, small and thin, with bright eyes that noticed everything. She handled all their communications. She could speak 12 different alien languages, and she had a way of making even the angriest customs officer smile. Today, they were at the station for an auction. The Valari, one of the oldest alien species in the galaxy, ran these auctions every month. They sold ships, equipment, and salvage from across the known worlds. Most of it was junk. But sometimes, if you look carefully, you could find something valuable. The auction hall was large and filled with beings from many different worlds. Do-hwan saw tall Korthan warriors standing in the back, their gray skin marked with old scars. He saw Valari merchants in their flowing robes, talking in soft voices. He saw other humans too, but not many. Humans were not common in this part of space. The auctioneer was a Valari with silver skin and 4 arms. He spoke in a bored voice as he showed each item. Most of the ships sold quickly. Valari cruisers went for millions of credits. Korthan freighters sold for hundreds of thousands. Even damaged ships from minor species found buyers. Then the auctioneer brought up a new image on the screen. It showed an old ship, covered in rust and marks from years of neglect. The hull was dented. The paint was gone. Even from the picture, Do-hwan could see that many systems were probably broken. Next item, the auctioneer said, not hiding his lack of interest. Human vessel. Registry KR Spyco. Manufactured 60 standard years ago. Decommissioned patrol ship. Starting bid at 1,000 credits. The crowd laughed. Some aliens made sounds of amusement. A Korthan near Do-hwan snorted and said something in his own language. Do-hwan did not need to understand the words to know it was an insult. Human ships were not respected in the galaxy. Everyone knew that humans had joined the galactic community late. Their technology was simple. Their ships were slow and inefficient. The great species, the Valari and the Korthan and the others, had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even left their own planet. Any bids? The auctioneer asked. He clearly expected none. Do-hwan raised his hand. 1,200 credits. The laughter in the room grew louder. The auctioneer looked at him with something like pity. Sold to the human, he said. May you find some use for it? Do-hwan walked to the front to sign the documents. His crew followed him, confusion on their faces. They had talked about this trip for weeks, and he had never mentioned wanting to buy a worthless old patrol ship. What are you doing? Yuna whispered as he pressed his thumb to the transfer pad. That thing is worth less than the metal it is made of. Maybe, Do-hwan said quietly. Taiwan frowned. We came here to find cargo contracts. You spent our money on scrap? Trust me. Ji-woo was watching Do-hwan's face carefully. She had known him long enough to recognize when he was hiding something. His eyes were too bright. His hands were shaking, just a little. She had never seen him like this before. "You know something," she said. "Something about that ship." Dawn did not answer. He took the ownership documents and walked toward the docking bay where the Baiko waited for them. His crew exchanged looks but followed him. They had trusted him before, and he had never led them wrong. The Baiko was even worse in person than it had looked in the picture. The hull was old and weak. The airlock creaked when it opened. Inside, the lights flickered and the air smelled stale. It was exactly what everyone thought it was. A worthless ship from a worthless species. But as Dohan stepped onto the bridge, he stopped and closed his eyes. He put his hand on the old console and took a deep breath. His grandfather had told him stories. Late at night, when he was young, his grandfather would talk about the old days. About the things humans had built before they met the other species. About the things they had hidden when the galaxy told them to stop. "You were waiting," Dohan whispered to the ship. "All this time you were waiting." Behind him, his crew watched in silence. They did not understand. Not yet, but they would. The Baiko floated in a quiet corner of the station's docking area. Inside, Yuna was working hard. She crawled through tight spaces and opened old panels. She checked wires and tested systems. Most of what she found was broken or barely working. Taiwan sat on the bridge, trying to start the main computer. The screen flickered on and off. Old error messages appeared in Korean, a language that most humans in space had stopped using generations ago. He had to read slowly, remembering words his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. Jiwoo was scanning the ship's records. She found logs from decades ago. Crew lists. Mission reports. Nothing special. Nothing secret. Just the ordinary history of an ordinary patrol ship. "This ship is dead," Yuna said through the communication system. Her voice was frustrated. "The power core is running at 12%. Half the life support systems are broken. The navigation computer thinks we are still in orbit around Earth. Can you fix it?" Doan asked. He was standing in the cargo hold, looking at the walls with strange concentration. "Maybe, if you give me a week and a lot of parts." She paused. "But why would we? This ship is not worth saving." Doan did not answer right away. He was walking slowly along the cargo hold, touching the walls, counting his steps. His crew watched him through the internal cameras, confused by his behavior. "Come down here," he finally said. "All of you." They gathered in the cargo hold a few minutes later. The room was large and empty, filled with old crates that held nothing but dust. The walls were plain metal, the same as any cargo hold on any ship. "What are we looking at?" Taiwan asked. "You see this wall?" Doman pointed to a section that looked exactly like the rest. "Measure it. Then go outside and measure the outer hull." Yuna looked at him like he was crazy, but she did what he asked. She used her tools to measure the inside of the cargo hold. Then she went through the ship and measured the exterior. When she came back, her face had changed. "The numbers do not match. The cargo hold is smaller than it should be, by about 4 meters. There is a hidden room," Jiwoo said, understanding now. Dohan nodded. He walked to a specific spot on the wall and pressed his hand against a panel that looked normal. Then he typed a sequence of numbers. 1, 9, 4, 5, 8, 1, 5. The date Korea was liberated, he thought. The code his grandfather had made him remember. A section of the wall slid open with a soft hiss. The metal moved smoothly, as if the hidden mechanism had been built to last forever. Behind the wall was another room. It was smaller than the main cargo hold, but still large enough to hold what was inside. 12 metal cylinders stood in a row, each one as tall as a person and as wide as a barrel. They were made of a metal that Yuna did not recognize. Through small windows in each cylinder, they could see liquid. The liquid glowed with a soft blue light, and it seemed to move on its own, like something alive. Nobody spoke for a long moment. "What is this?" Taiwan asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Jiwoo had already pulled out her scanner. Her hands were trembling as she read the results. "This is not possible. The energy readings are... I have never seen numbers like this. Each cylinder is putting out more power than our entire ship's reactor." Yuna stepped closer to one of the cylinders. She looked at the liquid inside, watching it pulse and flow. "What is in there?" "Compressed stellar plasma," Dohun said. "Taken directly from the heart of a star." The crew stared at him. "That technology does not exist," Yuna said slowly. "No species can harvest plasma from a star's core. The heat would destroy any ship. The gravity would crush any machine. Humans could do it," Dohun said. 60 years ago, we could do it. The Korean Space Force built 17 ships capable of diving into stars. They called it the Taiyang Protocol, the Sun Protocol. He touched one of the cylinders gently. The metal was cool under his fingers, even though the liquid inside burned hotter than any fire. 1 liter of this plasma can power a Volari destroyer for 10 years. 1 cylinder could light an entire planet. We have 12. He looked at his crew with serious eyes. "This is worth more than every ship on this station combined." "Why did nobody know about this?" Jiwoo asked. She was already searching through old records on her device, looking for any mention of the program. "Because the Volari found out. They threatened Earth with a complete trade embargo. No medicine. No technology. Nothing. Our leaders were scared. They agreed to destroy everything related to the project." Daohan's voice became bitter. "Officially, they did. But my grandfather was an engineer on one of those ships. He told me the truth. They hid the reserves. They scattered them across decommissioned vessels and buried them in old shipyards. Waiting. Waiting for what?" Taiwan asked. Doan looked at the glowing cylinders. "For humans to be ready to stop pretending to be weak." The room was silent. The blue light from the plasma cast strange shadows on their faces. "We cannot tell anyone about this," Yuna said suddenly. "If the Volari find out, or the Korthan, or anyone else, they will kill us. They will take this and kill us. I know." "Then what is your plan?" Doan smiled. It was not a happy smile. "First, we get this ship running. Then we find out if the other 16 ships still exist. And then..." He paused. "Then we decide what kind of future humanity deserves." Outside the ship, the galaxy continued as it always had. Aliens traded and fought and lived their lives, never knowing that everything was about to change. In a worthless ship that nobody wanted, 4 humans stood before a secret that could remake the stars, and Dohun knew that there was no going back. News traveled fast on Horizon's Edge. The station was full of spies, merchants, and people who sold information for money. Nothing stayed secret for long. Doan and his crew had been careful. They sealed the hidden room. They told no one what they had found. But somehow, word got out that the human who bought the worthless ship had found something valuable inside. They did not know exactly what he had found, but they knew enough that the first message came the morning after the auction. Dahan was sleeping in the captain's cabin when Jiwoo woke him with urgent words. "Someone wants to meet you," she said. "A Korthan named Grak. He represents something called the Korthan Syndicate. Tell him no. He is already waiting at our airlock." And he brought 6 armed soldiers with him. Dohan got dressed quickly and walked to the airlock. Through the small window, he could see the Korthan waiting outside. Grak was tall, even for his species. His gray skin was covered with old scars, marks of many battles. His eyes were cold and patient. Dohan opened the communication channel but did not open the door. "What do you want?" Grak's voice was deep and rough. You found something in that ship. Something valuable. I am here to make an offer. The ship is not for sale. Everything is for sale. The question is only the price. Grak smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. I am prepared to offer you 50,000 credits. More than fair for a piece of junk. No, the smile disappeared. You should think carefully, human. The syndicate does not like being refused. We have ways of making people change their minds. Dohan felt fear in his chest, but he did not let it show on his face. If you try to board this ship, you will regret it. Now leave. He closed the channel before Grak could respond. Through the window, he watched the Korthan stand there for a long moment. Then Grak turned and walked away with his soldiers. That was dangerous, Taiwan said. He had been standing behind Dohan, his hand resting on a weapon. The syndicate does not forget insults. I know, but we could not let him inside. The second offer came 3 hours later. This time, it was a Valari, a female with silver skin and eyes like black glass. Her name was Talia, and she represented the Valari Trade Consortium. She did not bring soldiers. She did not threaten. Instead, she smiled and spoke in a soft voice. I understand you have made an interesting discovery, she said through the communication screen. The consortium would like to help you. We can offer protection, political support, a safe place to store whatever you have found. In exchange for what? Partnership, of course. We would take only 60% of any profits. You would keep the rest. Dawn almost laughed. 60%? That is very generous of you. We are being generous because we like humans. Your species has potential. We want to help you grow. Her smile widened. Think about it. Without us, others will try to take what you have. The Korthan have already visited you, yes? They are not known for their patience. I will think about it, Dahan said. He had no intention of accepting, but he needed time. Do not think too long. The consortium's protection only works if we can act before others do. She ended the call. Dahan sat in silence, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. There will be more, Yuna said. She was sitting at her workstation, monitoring the station's communication channels. Everyone is talking about us. They do not know what we have, but they know it is important. How long until someone figures out the truth? Days, maybe. Hours, if we are unlucky. The third offer surprised them all. It came through an encrypted channel that Jiwoo had to work for 20 minutes to decode. The message was simple. We represent the An Collective. We know what you have. We want to help. Meet us at coordinates attached. The An Collective. Dahan had heard the name before. They were a human group that operated in the outer territories, far from Earth's control. Some called them rebels. Others called them the last true patriots. Nobody knew exactly what they wanted. This is a trap, Taiwan said immediately. It has to be. Maybe, Dawn agreed. But they are the only ones who mention knowing what we actually have. Jiwoo was still working on the message. There is more. They included a file. It is heavily encrypted, but I am breaking through. Her fingers moved fast over the screen. Finally, she stopped and looked up with wide eyes. Dawn, you need to see this. She put the file on the main screen. It was a document from Earth, marked with old government codes. A list of ships. 17 ships with their last known locations. The other vessels from the Taiyang Protocol, Dohon whispered. They know where they are. If this is real, Taiwan said carefully, we have to find out. Dohan looked at his crew, seeing the fear and excitement in their faces. The Korthan will come back. The Valari will lose patience. Whoever else is watching will make their move. We cannot stay here. Where do we go? Yuna asked. Dawn looked at the list of ships. 16 other vessels hidden across the galaxy. 16 other reserves of power that could change everything. "We find the others," he said, "before anyone else does." Taiwan moved to the pilot's seat. Yuna ran to the engine room to prepare for launch. Jiwoo began calculating routes and checking for pursuit dot as the Baiko's old engines came to life. Dohan stood on the bridge and watched Horizon's edge grow smaller through the window. He knew that they were being watched. He knew that enemies would follow, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something like hope. Humanity had hidden long enough. It was time to remember what they could be. The Baiko moved through open space, leaving Horizon's edge far behind. The old ship shook and rattled as Taiwan pushed the engines harder. Warning lights blinked on the bridge. The computer showed errors that Yuna was trying to fix from the engine room. "We have a problem," Jiwoo said suddenly. Her voice was calm, but her face was pale. 3 ships just appeared behind us. Korthan interceptors. They are moving fast. Taiwan checked his screens. The 3 enemy ships were small and quick, built for chasing and fighting. They were designed to catch larger vessels and disable them. Against the old Baiko, they would have no trouble at all. "How long until they reach us?" Doan asked. 7 minutes. "Maybe less. Can we outrun them?" Taiwan shook his head. This ship was not fast when it was new. Now, we have no chance. Doan gripped the edge of his seat. He had expected pursuit, but not this quickly. The Korthan Syndicate had decided not to wait. Grak must have been watching for them to leave. "Their weapons are charging," Jiwoo reported. "They are sending a message. They want us to stop and prepare for boarding. If we stop, they take everything," Yuna said through the communication system. "And then they kill us." Dohan knew she was right. The Korthan did not leave witnesses. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would decide whether they lived or died. "Yuna," he said slowly, "can you connect one of the plasma cylinders to the ship's power system?" There was a long pause. "That is insane. The ship was not built for that kind of energy. The systems could overload. Everything could explode. But can you do it?" Another pause. "Maybe. The old defense systems are still in place. They were never removed, just turned off. If I rub power to them, do it, now." Yuna did not argue. Dohan heard her running through the ship, her tools banging against metal. Meanwhile, the Korthan ships grew closer. On the screen, he could see them clearly now. Dark shapes with sharp edges, like weapons floating in space. 3 minutes, Jiwoo said. "They are spreading out to surround us. Taiwan, can you keep us moving? Make us a harder target?" The pilot nodded. His hands moved across the controls, and the Baiko began to turn and twist. The movements were clumsy because the ship was old and heavy, but it was better than nothing. 1 minute until they are in weapons range. In the hidden room, Yuna was working faster than she had ever worked before. She pulled open panels and connected cables that had not been used in 60 years. The plasma cylinder glowed brighter as she hooked it into the power system. Numbers on her screen began to climb. Higher and higher. More power than the old ship had ever known. "This is going to destroy everything," she muttered. But she kept working. "They are firing." Jiwoo shouted that the first shot hit the Baiko's hull. The ship shook hard, and alarms screamed. A second shot followed, then a third. The shields, what little remained of them, flickered and died. "Hull damage on deck 3. Jiwoo reported. "Another hit like that, and we lose atmosphere." "Yuna," Doan called. "We are out of time. 30 seconds. "I need 30 more seconds." Another shot struck the ship. This one hit closer to the engine room. The lights flickered, and for a moment everything went dark. Then the emergency systems kicked in, and the dim red lights came on. They are moving in for boarding, Taiwan said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. They think we are finished. 20 seconds. Jiwoo was watching the Korthan ships approach. They were so close now that she could see the markings on their hulls. In a few moments, they would attach to the Baiko and send soldiers inside. 10 seconds. Yuna. Done! Yuna's voice came through the speakers. Rooting power now. Everyone hold on to something. The Baiko's old systems woke up. Lights that had been dark for decades suddenly blazed to life. Consoles that had shown only errors now displayed power readings that should have been impossible. And the defense systems, weapons that had been sleeping for 60 years, opened their eyes. A beam of pure energy shot from the Baiko. It was not like any weapon the Korthan had ever seen. It was too bright, too powerful, too fast. It hit the first interceptor and passed through it like light through glass. The ship stopped moving. Every system on board died at once. Before the other two ships could react, 2 more beams fired. 2 more interceptors went dark. They floated in space, lifeless, their crews trapped inside powerless metal shells. Silence filled the Baiko's bridge. The crew stared at the screens, not believing what they had just done. That was not a weapon, Yuna said slowly. She had come up from the engine room, her face covered in sweat and oil. We did not destroy them. We just overloaded them. Too much power, directed at their systems. Everything shut down. The crews? Doan asked. Alive, probably. Their life support should have backup batteries. Jiwoo was already working at her station. I am broadcasting on open channels, making sure everyone knows what happened here. What are you saying? She looked at Dohan with a small smile. I am telling them that the KRS Baiko is not a ship to attack, and that any further aggression will be met with the same response. The message spread fast. Within hours, everyone in the sector knew that a worthless human ship had disabled 3 Korthan interceptors without firing a single shot. It was impossible. It was unbelievable. But it had happened. Doan watched the dead Korthan ships drift away. He knew that this was just the beginning. More enemies would come. More questions would be asked. The secret they had kept hidden could not stay hidden much longer. But for the first time, humans had shown the galaxy something new, something powerful, and nobody was laughing anymore. The Baiko docked at New Business Station 3 days later. The journey had been quiet. No more attacks came. News of what had happened to the Korthan interceptors had spread across the sector, and for now, everyone was watching and waiting. New Bizan was a human colony station on the edge of known space. It was not large or rich, but it was home to 50,000 people who had built their lives far from Earth. More importantly, it was where Dohan had arranged to meet with representatives from Earth's Unified Council. The council was the closest thing humanity had to a central government in space. They controlled trade agreements, military forces, and relations with other species. When Dohan sent his message about what he had found, they responded within an hour. 3 council members were already traveling to meet him. They arrived the next morning. 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing the formal gray uniforms of Earth officials. Their faces were serious, and they brought 20 security officers with them. The meeting took place in a private room on the station. Dohan sat on one side of the table with his crew. The council members sat on the other side, watching him with cold eyes. You have made a lot of noise, the lead council member said. Her name was Director Pak, and she had the look of someone who had spent her life making difficult decisions. Half the galaxy is talking about your ship. The Valari ambassador has already contacted Earth demanding explanations. The Korthan are calling it an act of war. They attacked us, Dohan said calmly. We defended ourselves, with technology that should not exist. Director Pak leaned forward. The Taiyang Protocol was destroyed 60 years ago. Every ship was dismantled. Every record was erased. That was the agreement we made with the Valari to avoid a total embargo. The agreement was a lie, made by leaders who were afraid. One of the other council members, a younger man with a thin face, spoke up. That fear kept humanity safe. We were not ready to fight the older species. We are still not ready. Dawn stood up from his chair. He looked at each council member in turn, seeing their doubt, their worry, their fear. Safe? He repeated. Is that what you call it? For 60 years, humans have accepted being treated as second-class citizens of the galaxy. We pay higher trade fees. We get worse positions. Our ships are laughed at. Our technology is called primitive, and our people are looked down upon. You call that safe? He pointed toward the window, where the stars shone in the darkness. My grandfather served on one of the Taiyang ships. He told me that before the Valari made their threats, humans could travel anywhere. We could harvest fuel from stars. We could build ships that matched anything in the galaxy. We chose to give that up because we were afraid of what the other species might do. Yuna stepped forward to stand beside him. We have 12 cylinders of stellar plasma on our ship. Each one contains more power than your entire fleet uses in a year. We found them in a ship that was supposed to be worthless, waiting for someone to remember what they were. Taiwan spoke next. The technology still works. I saw what it did to those Corthan interceptors. This is not old history. This is a weapon, a tool, a source of power that could change everything. Finally, Jiwoo pulled out her data device and placed it on the table. And there are 16 more ships out there. 16 other vessels from the Taiyang Protocol, hidden across the galaxy. We have a list of their locations. The On Collective gave it to us. Director Pak looked at the device. Her expression was unreadable. The On Collective. Rebels and terrorists, according to our official records. Patriots, according to others, Dohun said. People who never stopped believing that humanity deserved better than what we accepted. The room was silent for a long moment. The security officers stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. The council members exchanged looks that carried entire conversations. Finally, Director Pak spoke. What do you want us to do? Dohan took a deep breath. This was the moment he had imagined for years, ever since his grandfather had told him the old stories. Stop hiding, he said. Let the galaxy see what we really are. Find the other ships. Rebuild the program. Not for war, not for conquest, but to show everyone that humans are not weak, not primitive, not a joke. We have technology that rivals any species. We simply chose to pretend we did not. The younger council member shook his head. The Valari will respond. The Corthan will demand action. There could be war. There could also be respect, Yuna said quietly. For the first time in 60 years. Director Pak sat very still. She seemed to be thinking about things that had happened long ago. Decisions made by people who were now dead. Promises that had bound humanity to a path of weakness. Then, slowly, she nodded. Find the other ships, she said. Bring them back. And may the ancestors forgive us for waiting so long. 6 months passed. The Baiko, now repaired and shining with new armor, led a convoy of recovered vessels through the heart of Valari space. Behind it flew 11 other ships, each one carrying the same hidden technology that had been buried for decades. They did not come to fight. They came to be seen dot across the galaxy. Humans watched the broadcast. On Earth and on colony worlds, in stations and on ships, they saw their own people flying proudly through space that had once been close to them. They saw the blue glow of stellar plasma through the windows of ancient ships brought back to life. And they remembered who they used to be. On the bridge of the Baiko, Doan stood with his crew. Yuna was monitoring the engines, which now ran better than they ever had. Taiwan was at the helm, flying with the skill of a man who had found a new purpose. Jiwoo was handling communications from across the sector, messages of support and hope from millions of humans. The Valari ambassador is requesting a meeting, she reported. They want to discuss a new trade agreement, one with better terms for humanity. Tell them we will consider it, Dohan said. He smiled. It was the first real smile he had worn in a long time. Through the window, he watched the stars stretch past him. He thought of his grandfather, who had died believing that humans would never find the courage to stand tall again. We did it, Dohan whispered. We finally did it. Somewhere in the endless dark, new stars were waiting to be touched. And for the first time, humanity was ready to reach for them. The end.